Okay, we are live. So, good afternoon, good evening, hey, hi, hello. I am Tracy J, the Quiet Rebel, and I am coming to you live from Houston, Texas, with some friends. And if you have been with us before now, this is the third of 3 conversations about elections that is being hosted by the Omicron Tau Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. We will get into some introductions in just a few moments, but I'm not sharing my screen. It would be helpful if y'all could see what I see. One moment, please. Okay, that's better. You can see what we're doing here and who we are with. We'll jump into some introductions in just a moment. But first, let me show you what our evening looks like. We will do a few introductions, then we have some shared agreements for our conversation. Then we'll hop into our dialogue. The dialogue looks like me guiding our participants through some questions, and we're gonna just let it see where it goes. Normally we play fair in the box, and we're gonna do that again tonight. But also, we got a lot of weird things happening right now. So we're gonna talk about all of it and just see what happens. If, as you are following along with us, if you have questions and you want to drop them in the conversation box, we will try to get to those as we go. And if we cannot get to them while we're talking, we will get to them after. Is that fair? Everybody here is ready?
That's fair.
All right. So this is me. I'm Tracy J, the Quiet Rebel, and that is the name of my business. It is also how I show up in the world. And the intention of the Quiet Rebel is to incrementally and organically shift the status quo using conversations as instruments for change. How that normally looks is that I host conversations that allow people to share their lived experience about race and culture. And I'm also excited to be able to facilitate conversations about other things that matter. And this, my friends, matters. This election season, this politics in general, it matters, and I'm glad and grateful to be invited to facilitate this conversation. Our host tonight is my good friend, I dare say best friend, Layle McKelvey, and I would like to invite her to share, please, the purpose and intent of our time together.
Hello. When you say purpose, I kind of think about church and give the occasion, but we're meeting in our third series of 3 here. This is for our connection committee, and we are all things politics. So we worked the census, we did voter registration activities, we did get out to vote activities and pushes for that, and then now we're having our post-election conversation. So that is who we are and what we do, and we just keep plugging away at it. And so I want to thank the panelists for saying yes to me. That's my favorite word, right after second only to VIP. That's the next word that I really like. But I do love when my friends, they're all friends to me now, friends say yes. And so I appreciate you guys being here, and also our committee members for working so hard during the course of this election season. And then our basilisk, Tanisha Harrell, for trusting us, or it might be Harold, I could be saying her name wrong, I'm being so much trouble, but for trusting us enough to let us get out here and do our work. So And with that, I'm done. That's it for me. No more yakking. Thank you.
All right. So next, I'm going to ask our esteemed conversationalist to introduce themselves. On the next slide, you will see your names come up. And as your name comes up, if you will please unmute yourself, share with the people who you are, where you are, your particular claim to fame in the world, whatever that might look like. And one word, how do you feel right now? One word, not a sentence, not a description, just one word, how do you feel right now? All right, so we're gonna start with Mr. Boney.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, for those of you who may not know me, I am Jeffrey L. Boney. I am Missouri City Council member, as well as the associate publisher for the historic Houston Forward Times newspaper. I am excited to be here. One word, you say?
One word.
Optimistic.
Okay. Garland.
Hi, I'm Garland Burton. I'm actually in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I really am a principal with a development company called Liberty Atlantic. I'm retired, but it's kind of like being in the mafia. You're trying to get out, but they keep pulling you back into the construction industry. But really kind of a diversity historian, supplier diversity historian, been at it so long. Glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation. And the way I'm feeling about this election is one word would be apprehensive.
Okay, thank you. Martha.
So good evening. I'm Martha Castex-Tatum, currently the Vice Mayor Pro-Tem of the City of Houston and the Council Member for District K. My claim to fame is the mother of Jacob Paulson K. Tatum. My one word is hopeful.
Hopeful. All right. Anna.
Hi, I am Anna Eastman, and I'm a former HISD school board member. I am currently a state representative in House District 148, but I was elected in a special election in January and lost my primary this summer. So I'm going to be one of the shortest lived state representatives around. And I would say I am just feeling very anxious.
All right. Thank you, Anna. Oh, Christina's not here with us. If she joins us later, we'll get to say hello. Kelly. Oh, you're on mute, Kelly.
Okay, hi. I'm excited. That's why I was still on mute. That's why I'm so excited. Like, I can't wait. I've been on Pins and Needles the last 24 hours. But I'm Kelly P. Hodges. I'm currently the CEO and founder of Hodges Community Group. I'm also a board member for Spring Independent School District. And I'm also the executive director of the historic Houston Texans YMCA. And I'm also the state connection coordinator for Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the South Central region. And a part of that responsibility is we handle all of the advocacy as it relates to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority. So I'm glad to be here representing Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated myself.
Thank you. Thank you all. I so appreciate, as Layle said, I appreciate your yes. I am glad to see your faces, and I am so honored to have this conversation with you tonight. I will say before we hop into our agreements that this is a decidedly nonpartisan conversation. We may all have our particular personal views, and whatever we express tonight is our own personal view, and it is not a reflection on Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority or any other organizations that might be represented here, which you'll see as one of our agreements. We speak in first person around these parts, so we are not speaking for any other folks except us. With that, here are our agreements, and these agreements are present in anything that I host, because we have to have a standard of communication, and we have to have a way that we all show up in the space together. So We always begin with love, and love is an acronym. The L is listen with your heart. O is observe or be aware of your own biases. V is venture into unfamiliar territory. And the E is expect the best. And also a few other agreements. We speak in first person, as I mentioned. I do show up in the world as a Black woman. I show up in the world as a Houstonian. I show up in the world as an independent in terms of my political affiliation, but I do not speak for all Black women. I do not speak for all Houstonians, and I do not speak for all independents. So we speak in first person. Prepare for non-closure. Y'all, we're talking about some big stuff tonight, right? And we know the world is not going to be repaired today. So we know that is not the goal of this conversation, to fix the world. So we're just going to agree to that going in. Share and then invite. So normally when I host dialogue, I set it up such that it is a share and then invite scenario, so that we're not all trying to talk at the same time. Somebody gets to finish their thought and then they invite somebody else to share. I say maybe in parentheses, because this may or may not be able to go that way. We'll just see what happens. We're gonna start off that way, and then if it doesn't go that way, we'll just be okay. And also, I always say whenever I host a conversation that the conversation should be both safe and brave. We are showing up as our full selves in this conversation. And so when we show up as our full selves, that takes some degree of bravery on our part. But we also have to maintain the safety of the space for everybody else. So I'm going to be responsible for making sure that I am authentic in my approach, and I invite you to do the same. But I also invite us to be mindful that what we say will land on somebody else. So keep that in mind as you're speaking, so that we keep this space safe. Everybody's good?
Yep.
All right. So this last slide before we hop into our regular discussion is something I called Yes If. And this is just a way for us to kind of get to know each other, break the ice. And if you are following along on Facebook, then by all means, yes if. Conversationalists who are here with us tonight, when you see a thing that applies to you, please unmute yourself and say yes. All right. So, yes if you have lived in more than one state.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yes if you are an only child.
I was an only child up until 2009 when I found out I had a sister.
Wow, interesting.
So that's an almost. That's
Actually, I found out on Facebook that I had.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay, that's a whole other conversation. I do have a sister, but my father says he has 2 only children. Yes, if you like to roller skate.
Yes.
Yes.
Not anymore.
It's been way too long since I've roller skated.
Yes, if you watched Lovecraft Country.
No.
Yes. Yes, if you're a good cook.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, if you went to sleep before midnight last night.
No.
Yes, if you woke up expecting to know the president-elect.
Yes.
Maybe hoping, but not expecting.
Hoping.
No, I was expecting. I needed it to happen.
Okay, all right, that's fair. All right, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now, and we are going to hop into these questions. So my first question, and we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna try sharing and inviting. If it works, it works. If it does not, it does not. The first question is, what did you do to prepare yourself and or other people for this 2020 general election? And I will invite Kelly to start.
Oh, a lot. I mean, where do I get started? Yeah, I mean, through the sorority. Well, personally, for myself, I really took the time to educate myself regarding some of the candidates that I were not as familiar with. And then through my sorority, we made sure that we got information out. We educated. We did voter registration drives and register people to vote. Held a couple of events where we talked about the election and practicing, some of the new policies and procedures, also practicing social distancing, different things like that. But just that encouragement piece, making sure that we, just reiterated the importance of getting out and voting. This is one of the most important elections, in our lifetime. So I think that the education is still a lot more education to be done, because I found when I was at the polls, people just don't have a clue. And I, in my mind, I'm just thinking, what more is it that we can do? Because I know we all do a lot. And I just feel like, where are we missing the mark? Some of the conversations, education, just educating myself and others. I invite Anna. Hi, Anna.
So y'all may have seen me making a bunch of faces. My dogs were barking like crazy and I was trying to shoo them out. So I guess I prepared myself by running for office 4 times up until July for the crazy special election and then regular election races I was in. And so by the time I got to this point, and I really spent a lot of time with my own family, with my kids. I have 3 children, 23, 21, and 18. 2 of them are out of state in college, but voted in Harris County. And then with my 88-year-old mom, my nieces and nephews that are out of town, making sure, and then other people making sure that they had ballots, that they knew how to use the awesome resources that Chris Hollins and Harris County provided to our voters. It was just incredible when you look at the way the elections went a year ago, and we opened up a bunch of doors that we weren't really ready to handle versus the way things happened over the last several months. I think I spent a lot of time making sure people had those resources. And like Kelly said, so many people don't know. They don't know how to find where to vote. They don't know that they can request a ballot. They don't know all the people that are on the ballot. People are really baffled by that. And so because I had insight, I had run with a lot of people and gotten to know them. I spent time sharing that with other people, and also just kind of hunkering down and focusing on relationships with people that I'm close to and around, and talking about it, because I knew that we were going to have a really weird space that we were in as of yesterday and right now for a while. I think even when we know, I don't think it's going to be smooth. So but I think we also have a lot of opportunities at hand. I am going to invite Martha.
You're on mute, Martha.
I say this all the time: democracy is learned, and we can never grow weary of teaching it every day to everyone we can. I spent a lot of time being very intentional about making sure people had the resources that they need, making sure people knew where to find the resources that they need, making sure people were registered to vote until October 5th, making sure people knew that they could vote at every polling location. So all the information that I had and that I was able to share, I wanted to make sure I was posting it. I was talking about it to my son, making sure he told all his friends at Prairie View, if they aren't registered back at home, to make sure they go and vote and get to know the people running for election in Prairie View. and just really being intentional about including everyone that I came in contact with this election process. There were so many opportunities, and I hope that we will eventually, talk about that, because I just don't think we can turn back what we did this election cycle by opening up the amount of access that we allowed for people to vote. I think that's why we'll have the highest turnout that we've ever had in an election, was because of the access that was granted from this county clerk and everyone who participated. So just making sure people knew what was available and sharing the resources and really being intentional about inviting people to participate in our democracy. And I'm going to invite Garland.
Thanks. Well, for me, I think it was a lot like what I've heard. I'll tell you a couple things. Back in September, I happened to be at a local grocery store and just started chatting with a couple of the young employees that worked there. They were all African American, about 5 of them, between the ages of 19 and I'd say 26 or 27. And just chit-chatting and goofing around talking to them, found out that none of them were registered to vote, nor had any ever voted. And I was really shocked, given the events of this year and the, social uprising. I went home and typed up a letter, a pretty lengthy letter, and just spelled out everything I could think of, talking about history and the history of voting rights and how important it is. And I made about 50 copies and just went back up to the store and passed them out to every young person that I could. And then days later, I was still passing them out to random young people at the gas station. And then here in North Carolina, it's kind of funny, the absentee voting process expanded because of COVID-19. And so the process in North Carolina, voters have to request an absentee ballot. We could begin doing that in August. They began mailing out absentee ballots in September. So I went through the process, got my absentee ballot in September, filled it out, hand delivered it to the county election board the next day, just to be safe. And so many other people, because I had gone through the process, I spent time walking them through the process and helping them. And also in Texas, I have a friend that lives in Houston whose mother is from El Paso, but the mother is staying in Houston with the daughter, and was trying to figure out how to, so I helped them. I figured out, well, she needed to call the El Paso County Board of Elections to request the absentee ballot. It would be mailed to Houston. So just helping people to walk through the process. It was complicated in many places. And I hope we talk about this later, but this whole registration process, I understand in other countries, there is no registration to vote. You, by virtue of being a citizen of that nation, are born with the right to vote. You show up and vote. I had my sister and some other people close to me actually worked at various polling places, and I heard some pretty funny stories. I'll tell you real quick.
Garland, can we hold the story for just a second? Because I want to make sure we all get to answer this question, please.
Sure.
Or at least that Jeff, who's our last conversationalist, can answer. And then, and hold that thought though. Don't let it leave you. Thank you, Jeff.
I'm in a very unique position. I'm a politician with a pen. And so I can both write the news and I can make the news. And in this particular instance, I used my position with the Forward Times, which of course we're the oldest and largest African-American newspaper in the Southern region, used that to be able to inform the community and educate the community on all of the things that were aforementioned, voting locations, the updated accessibility that, I shout out to Harris County Clerk Chris Hollins, my frat brother with Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, for allowing additional access, increased access. But making sure that we put content in our newspaper on a week to week basis and online to ensure that people were educated. Every major election, we do a voter's guide. So we made sure we put that out there. But on a personal note, of course, participated in voter registration drives with my fraternity in our chapter, particularly. We were also out there. Man, I'm not on the ballot. I was not on the ballot yesterday. However, I am an elected official, and I am one who encourages voting. I do it when I'm up on the ballot, but I also do it when I'm not on the ballot, because voting is important, especially in local elections, is because that we are the people that impact you the most, not just on the federal level. So at any rate, I made sure that I was out there, and I took my kids with me. We went block walking. We worked the polls. On early voting, we worked the polls yesterday on election day. And my kids now understand the good, bad, and the ugly of politics, but they also understand the importance of the decision-making that any elected official has on our daily lives. So those are the things that I did in advance of yesterday and will continue to do beyond.
Thank you. Okay. Here's the next question. There was an election yesterday. Some places we have results, some things we don't have results on yet. Jeff already sort of alluded to this question, so I'm going to ask him to go first. My question is, are you surprised? And if you are surprised, or not, however you answer, what did you anticipate? So, Jeff, are you surprised?
Well, let me be clear. I'm not surprised or confused about yesterday's election results, particularly when you look at the exit polling. A lot of times, and the same thing happened in 2016, people were polled prior to the election, and when you looked at the polling data, you would have thought Donald Trump would have lost in a landslide. And what happens? He becomes the 45th president of the United States. So as horrible and divisive as Donald Trump has been as a president, in my opinion, this is the real state of America, whether you like it or not. And many folks told those posters one thing before the election, got in that booth and supported him in a far greater way this year than they did in 2016. So you look at some of the demographics, 55% of white women voted for Trump. 58% of white men voted for Trump. 18% of black men voted for Trump. 36% of Latino men voted for Trump, and 28% of Latino women voted for Trump. It was the only single-digit demographic. Black women were at 8%. So I guess they either are a lot smarter than us, or saw something that was on the horizon, or this is just, again, in my opinion, the real state of America. Face it. We just need to face the reality. People can say anything with their lips, like they say a pair of lips will say anything. But the reality is what we see, what happened yesterday, and what's happening right now.
All right, please invite somebody else to answer the question. Are you surprised?
I'll invite Martha Cass, my neighbor, my neighboring council member, Martha Castex-Tatum.
All right, thanks, buddy. Am I surprised? I'm going to venture and say yes, I am, because I'm disappointed more than I am surprised. I was really hopeful. I thought that after these 4 years of the hate and the demeaning conversations and all of these negative things that we've seen to happen in our country, that people would vote for a unity ticket. I am an optimistic, and I want the world to be a better place. And I want people to be kind, and I want people to do things because they want to help others and just do the right thing for people to all have a good quality of life. And I was really hoping that we had turned the page on the ugliness of America. And I will tell you, I was quite disappointed. I did not think that the votes would be that high for our current president. I really was hopeful that people would vote for the unity ticket. I do think that, there are a lot of issues that have happened in our country, and I know there's no perfect candidate. I know that people had their reservations about both sides, but I did think that it was going to be a bigger win, or a bigger, there was underperformance for the Biden-Harris ticket. I do think that having Senator Kamala Harris on the ticket was a big win for Joe Biden, because Black women were energized and empowered. We're honored to see our sorority sister, another African-American woman, on a national ticket. And she's very close to being, the first African-American vice president of the United States. So I'm happy about that, but I am disappointed because I thought that more people would be on the side of unity, and not wanting to continue what we've seen over the last 4 years. And I'm going to invite Anna.
So I guess I'm just kind of baffled. I had hoped that it would not be as close as it is, and I kind of thought it wasn't going to be, at least at the presidential level. I know a lot of people. I'm a Democrat. I ran as a Democrat, and I was a little more skeptical about state house races and things like that. I thought people would vote for Biden and then want to keep their people that are close to them in their seats. And especially with the lawsuits around voter access and drive-through voting, I have to say that I think the turnout in this election may bode well for us keeping those things in place and having more voter access, because everyone was afraid, if we let everybody vote, then it's not going to go our way. And it turns out it did go their way, even though we encouraged everybody to vote. And so, I wrote something, I posted something on Facebook yesterday about, whatever or on Monday, whatever were to happen on Tuesday, we were not going to be in this the problems are solved, even if it went the way we wanted to. And so many of us sitting here serve in elected positions, or have served in elected positions, and know that the work only begins when you win, and that the work is hard and it's complex. And in the best of times, it's that way. And in times like we're in today, where we are so divided, it's even harder to actually, and with what we can't pretend doesn't exist anymore. The structures that benefited me and my family forever, that can't stand. We can't look away or walk away. And so, I don't know if I was surprised. I think it's just like a kind of sad bafflement, and to know that, the young people that I've raised up, I do believe that they're going to be part of the solution, and all of our kids that we're talking about. But I don't know. I think we're at this really big pregnant pause, and have to seize the opportunity that we have in front of us. So I am going to invite Garland.
Thanks. I guess my reaction was I was surprised. I've kind of been following some of the international coverage of the U.S. election, and the rest of the world is shocked and surprised at how close this is. And I think that's because, by any objective measure, I think most people, I would certainly agree that Donald Trump is, not competent. He's a crook. There is no real policy plan. Yet people continue to support him. And I think that does say volumes about where the country is, how little progress there has been, because you think about it. I'm old enough to remember, the moral majority, and it used to be that conservatives would argue that, well, it's about morality. Well, this president has demonstrated a lack of morality. Well, it's about loving the troops. Well, this president has demonstrated disrespect for the troops. Well, no, it's about policy. Well, there is no policy coming from this president. It's about competence. Well, he's demonstrated incompetence. I mean, everyone who has served in his administration who has since left has been critical. I think Rex Tillerson called him a moron. And so just objectively, for people to disregard all of those, what used to be conservative principles, you wonder how is he holding on to, and I think it's a combination of things. It's just, the fear of diversity, and for a certain segment, and then for others, it's just complete ignorance. I mean, just anybody who's, in my opinion, who's been following the news of the last 3 or 4 years in a cursory fashion would see the peril that our democracy is in, undermining foundational institutions. It just, so I was really surprised at how stable and really how much Trump support has grown. I would have thought just the opposite. I'm really, really surprised. I'd like to pass it on to Ms. Hodges.
Thank you. I went from being very, very proud of all of the work that had been done in the community, how all, organizations, galvanized and worked in the community to educate and make sure people were registered to vote, being so proud of our high voter turnout, to just today to a total state of confusion. I'm still in I think I've really been in a daze. I didn't sleep last night. I mean, I laid on the couch and just kept dozing off, watching CNN, dozing off, watching, I'm just really, I remember the last election and my mother came, she said, I don't think I'm reading this. I think I'm reading this right, but I don't think Hillary's gonna win. I said, Mama, go on, Hillary's gonna win. She got it, we good. And then when I woke up, so last night I didn't want to go to sleep. I'm like, because last time it didn't turn out right. I'm not going to sleep. So I have not really slept. And it's just I feel like we're playing double dutch a little bit. What is going on in America? I went from being so proud of all the work that we've done, never in a million years thought that we would be right here where we are. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of disappointed in our country. I really am. I feel like I'm, I know this is not 1960, 1955, 1949. I've had a lot of conversations with my mother about, the things that that she went through, remembering things in Memphis and then moving to East St. Louis and all of that. And it's just, I'm just times are different. And I even yesterday, going to the polls, I volunteered at the Barbara Bush Library and worked the polls. And I just thought, this is nothing but Republican country out here. And so I just went and stood in the middle of them and spoke to them, said, hey, because they are my neighbors. And, and just had a good conversation. But when I saw the Trump supporters coming through, just circling the parking lot, I thought, they for real, I thought to myself, I'm talking about in the pickup trucks, rifles on the back. I'm like, oh, like, that's how we rolling, you know? And so in my mind, I'm thinking, but this is not 68. This ain't 65. We packing, and we not, you're not going with the intimidation is not happening. It's not happening, you know? So that to me was just a real eye opener. I'm like, oh my God, you know, where are we? You know, I had to like check myself. Like I felt like I was in a twilight zone for a few minutes. I mean, I'm at the library I've been going to for the last 13 years, or however long the library's been open. I know it's been at least 13 years. And we got cars circling with the Confederate flag and Trump flags and rifles. Oh, so that's how we doing it over here, you know? So yeah, I went from being proud to a total state of confusion. And I'm still confused right now. I don't know. I just don't know what to do. I don't know.
Thank you.
I will pass it on to, I'll invite Layle. You're on mute.
So I definitely was surprised. Kind of the same sentiment that everyone else has, that I just didn't expect for it to be this close. I expected for us to have some type of runaway victory and be all celebrating, you know, in our pearls and Chuck Taylors today as well. So, you know, didn't happen. I think, have we all spoken, Tracy? I didn't keep up.
Oh, just me.
Okay, I invite you to share, Tracy.
Okay, well, thank you. I have said this about 18 times today. I fell asleep and I woke up in the same America. This is the country that we live in. It is the country that I'm accustomed to. I am, as several of you have mentioned, I am disappointed, surely, based on the conversations that I have had personally, based on the conversations I've had professionally. There seemed to have been a lot of people interested in seeing America show up differently. But I also believe that people say the thing that is popular and are not always telling the truth. And so it has been very popular to agree that Black Lives Matter. It has been very popular to do all the anti-racism work. That has been a popular trend. But the reality in people's households is that the systems that are in place work for their families. And so when they went to vote, they decided to vote in the interest of the systems that work for their families. Our current president makes it okay for people to show up with all their naked hatred. He is the champion of that naked hatred. And as long as it's okay for him, then it is okay for a large, as we see by the number of people who voted in that direction, it is okay for a lot of them. So I am not surprised. I am disappointed. I am saddened. I'm even frustrated to some degree. But the reality from my own perspective is that regardless of the outcome, we still have miles of work to go. So we just gonna get up tomorrow morning like we got up this morning and keep going in the direction of the thing that we hope for, regardless of who it turns out is the president. And then the president was not the only person on the ticket, right? There was a lot of other people on the ballot underneath that top line that are a reflection on our, again, shared values. I was gonna save this question for later, but I'm gonna ask it now because I feel like we need some good news. What are you proud of? What do you want to celebrate from the outcome of this election, even if it's not at the top of the ticket? What did happen that you want to celebrate? What made you proud? And I'm going to ask Anna to start.
Well, I'm proud of the participation. I'm proud that Christian Menifee is our county attorney. I think that's incredible. And I'm on a deeply personal level, I'm proud of like my own kids, that they voted, that they read voter guides, that they educated themselves, that they challenged me on. My oldest son was like, well, I'm going to vote for this person, and I'm not going to name the election. I was like, no, you can't vote for them. And he was like, well, I liked her answers better than, you know, the other one. And we had a conversation about it. And he actually lives in Oregon, and Oregon yesterday decriminalized small amounts of cocaine and heroin. And I was on a chat with my children, and, you know, I just said, what was up with that, to feel them out? And it was so, I don't know, great to hear them unpack that and be like, you know, Mom, this is so that people who are using aren't in jail. And, you know, I asked about money for treatment and all that kind of stuff. And we had not talked about that. Like, and they were like spot on the issue and the rationale. And so, you know, I do feel like those are some good things that happened. I call myself post middle age because I'm 53. I don't think I'm middle age anymore. That means I would, you know, be going up to 106. But I feel like there is wisdom that comes with age, but when we watch hearings for Supreme Court justices and see who is sitting up there making decisions for us, and we look at the age of the people who were on the ballot for president, I'm excited to see here in Houston that we're generating some new, strong, elected or appointed leaders that are kind of new to the scene. Like, I've been involved in the political scene here for 13 years, and it's nice to see new people to that scene. So that's what I'm proud of. And I am going to pass it to Kelly.
What I'm most proud of is the
Kelly, you're breaking up.
engagement. And I think we did a really good job in this area. Am I? I shouldn't be breaking. Oh, it says internet. Please don't make me, because I'm not going to tell y'all the system that I got put in my house, so this won't happen. Okay, am I bad? Yeah, because I've been clowning with AT&T since the pandemic. I got all kind of routers around here. But I was very proud of how we really mobilized as a community, and I mean all communities, to come together to make sure people were educated, informed. So proud of Chris Hollins, as Jeffrey mentioned, and just being able to the 24-hour voting during early voting. That was just amazing. And, you know, just all of that, just the accessibility, our community really took advantage of that. Those were the things that I was most proud of. Did I think we'd be where we are right now? No, but I am still very proud of how we mobilized, all organizations mobilized to make sure the community was educated, to make sure our community had what it needed to get to vote in the midst of a pandemic. And, you know, the drive-through voter, the drive-up voter registration, being able to vote or during early voting, and even on election day, I was just like, because I was at Fallbrook Church, and I was like, what's going on over there? I didn't even remember reading that. And so I was like, what is that line for? And when I was like, oh my God, I didn't even realize it. And I was there on me. So of course I started promoting that and just encouraging people, you know, this is a safer route. I just think that as a community in our area, we did a really good job. And I applaud our leadership with making sure that things were, that being able to vote was accessible and the information was out there. I think if people didn't know, it was because they didn't want to know. I think, you know, we use every medium from our local minority papers to our mainstream media to social media. Very proud of what we did as a community to get the word out, early voting and on election day as well. And I'll pass it to Garland.
Thanks. I guess what I'm most proud of, and I guess this echoes what Ann was saying, was I'm really proud of the youth turnout. And this kind of ties into what I was saying earlier. One of my friends working at a polling place in Greensboro over at A&T State University, one day a 15-year-old girl walked in trying to vote. And so they sat her down and, you know, applauded her for her effort. But it's, you know, people were wondering, I mean, where are your parents? Nobody's ever told you got to be 18 to vote. But that kind of youthful energy and interest was encouraging to see. So for me, that was a real, and then the turnout again, just the massive turnout. I didn't think about the beginning of the year. Yeah, I was really worried about this election, that there would be a low turnout, that it might be a disaster. But you know, the states got together, the local election boards, and they, you know, made early voting or absentee ballot voting fairly easy. I didn't think they would ever be able to ramp up in time to accommodate the volume, but they were able to. And I will turn it over to Jeff.
Thank you. Wow, man, there's so much, honestly, that I'm so proud of. One of the first things I'll have to say, there were some historical wins on yesterday. You had Derek Johnson in Texas City, the first African-American mayor of Texas City. You got Brian Rowland down there at Prairie View as mayor. You got Kendrick Crawford, one of the youngest ever county commissioners in Waller County, African-American.
Jones.
Huh?
Kendrick Jones.
Excuse me, yeah, Jones, thank you. Kendrick Crawford was the young man, black man that was shot and killed. That he was on my mind. Anyway, Tanisha Husband, first black Harris County clerk. Christian Menifee, my fraternity brother, Omega Psi Phi fraternity, first black and youngest ever Harris County attorney. Then over in Fort Bend County, where I am, you got Bridget Smith Lawson, the first black female county attorney. You got AJ Honore, who is in a runoff now for Stafford mayor, and Lynn Clouser, y'all's sorority sister, AKA, who is in a runoff for Missouri City Council. Those are some historic wins, things that I'm extremely proud of to see happen. But going back to what was said earlier, I'm so proud of those 18 to 29-year-old demographic, the young people, because they showed up and showed out. 62% of the vote went to Biden. So I'm so proud and excited about the future of our country with them voting the way that they did compared to those that are older. But at any rate, going back to Chris Hollins, you know, you had that 3-week early voting period. You had the countywide voting sites. You had more than 800 polling places. You had a 3-day run of extended voting hours. You had a 24-hour voting day, drive-through voting, and you can't discount the activists on the ground who helped eligible residents of the Harris County jail system get options to cast their vote and cast their ballot as well. So all in all, I mean, we set a record in Harris County, reaching over 1.4 million votes, which is the highest numerical turnout in history, exceeded 2016. And, you know, 127,000 people were able to vote from their cars. I mean, you know, it's a great day in Texas, a great day in Harris County, Fort Bend County, which all the countywide races flipped blue. And for a minute there, man, it was looking good for Texas overall, but we fell a little short. But all in all, it was a great day. I believe we just need to cross the finish line with this presidential race.
I'm going to jump in here real quick and say, No, I'm gonna jump in and say, don't forget, we have in Fort Bend County, the sheriff, the first Black sheriff since
Yes, Eric
Reconstruction.
Fagan.
Yeah,
Eric
so
Fagan, yes. I don't know how I forgot him. His son, Patrick Fagan, who passed away in a fatal car accident going back to college, was in my first Youth Entrepreneurship Academy program, and I was a huge supporter of Eric Fagan. Thank you so much, Layle. Yes, Eric Fagan is the first African-American sheriff Fort Bend County has ever had as well. So yeah, great day in Texas.
He's the second, but the first one was Reconstruction.
Yeah, since Reconstruction. So I guess I'll push it to Martha.
So ditto to everything Jeffrey Boney said. I was writing down all the people that won so I could say that is what I was excited about. So ditto to everything that you said, Jeffrey. I do want to add a couple of things. I saw some new organizations pop up. They were new to me. I don't know if you know Felicia Moon Thomas.
Yes.
She started that See You at the Polls group, and they had the orange shirts on and they were prepared, and she mobilized this group of volunteers, and they were at the polls handing out water and snacks, and they had phone chargers. They even had musical performances at the Smart Financial Center and at TSU. And I was just so impressed at her mobilizing these volunteers to make sure that we made voting as comfortable as we could for people that had to wait in line. But then we found that people weren't even having to wait in a lot of long lines. There were so many polling places that when people went to vote, they weren't having to wait in the long lines that we anticipated were going to be there. There were some, but with 806 voting locations in Harris County, I went to vote on the very first day of early voting. I walked right in. There was no line. I told everybody to come to the Kingdom Builder Center. I was excited about our fight for democracy, even though the lawsuits went forth to try to shut down our drive-through voting. Our county clerk and our county judge, they fought for democracy. I think I bet it hurt them to close down those 9 drive-through voting locations the night before Election Day, but I know that they thought it was prudent so that no votes would be in jeopardy, that every vote would count. So I love the fight for democracy because every vote matters and every vote deserves to be counted. And that people are just so engaged, and it's important to people now that they vote, and they vote in every election down the ballot. They know all the things to do. And I'm happy about our local elections. And I'm happy that people know that our local elections matter and that they will impact the quality of life for them on a day-to-day basis. And in my political role, I will say that when we do have checks and balances, it does make for good public policy. I would love for everybody to agree with all the things that I agree with, but even when we don't all agree, when we can be agreeable and understand that we have the same constituents on the local level as the state level, and we share the same constituency, I think if our goal is for good public policy, we can definitely reach that goal.
And Tracy, can I just jump in and say one thing? I want to give a shout out to the Divine Nine at the national level and at the local level, who came together. All of us were focused on getting voters registered, and also helping people at the polls, and making sure that that nobody was disenfranchised, and that there was no voter suppression tactics, and that we did everything in our power to get the vote out. And so shout out to all of the leaders of the Divine Nine, all of the members at the national and local level who stepped up to the plate to collaboratively work together to make this a successful election.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Yep. Martha, who would you like to invite?
Who hasn't spoken? I think maybe the last one.
I think it's just me and Layle. Layle, did you want to hop in there?
No, I'm good.
Okay. No, she's
Tracy. I'll invite you.
I agree with all that has been shared, and I will also shout out my personal children that came out of my body. those 20-something-year-old people who made it their business to not only get educated, but also to vote and to share with their friends the importance of voting, and to check on the people around them to make sure that they were also voting, and to still be paying attention today to see how the vote has turned out.
Mhm.
Right? We have this, family thread that's happening, and like back and forth. Okay, we got this state. Okay, but wait, but could they just call Nevada? Is the current? If we could just call Nevada, right? So I'm personally proud of them. I'm also really glad about many of the how the judges on our ballot turned out for Harris County. We had one of the longest ballots in the state. 54 things to vote on in Harris County was pretty long and ridiculous, but we made it through the whole thing, and I was pleased to see the results in the judge races, because sometimes we forget how important that race is, right? The people who make rulings on criminal justice in our country, right? Sometimes we forget that that's a political thing. But we know even at the highest level of the land, right, that the Supreme Court itself is a highly political thing, right? We had this whole battle for to rush in this nominee, right, right before this particular election, and it's lifetime. This is not a question I had planned to ask, but I'm going to ask it. We're coming towards the edge of our time, so I want to make sure that we also have a chance to wrap up and share any closing thoughts. But the idea came up earlier in something else I was reading, just about term limits, right? So we had some senators elected this go round. Senators served 6 years. 6 years. Come on, man. It's longer than the president, right? And then we don't have a term limit on how many times you can be a senator, right? So you can be 6 years on top of 6 years on top of 6 years on top of 6 years until infinitum, right? How are you feeling about term limits? I've already sort of shared how I feel about it. You can hear by the inflection in my voice how I feel about term limits. Kelly, how you feeling about term limits?
You know, I don't know. It's a double-edged sword. I don't know. I'm still. I don't know. I don't know. I feel.
I don't know.
Like
perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, I don't know because I feel like if a person is doing a good job in a position, you shouldn't say, oh, they should be limited because of age or they've been in there too long. You know, if they're successful and productive and engaged in the community and are doing the job elected to do, then why shouldn't they continue to do it? You know, I don't. You know, I really have mixed feelings about that, especially because I think about a particular congressperson in office, what seems like for her. And so, but I know that she does, you know, to me, when I see, she does a good job, you know, and so I don't know why she should be limited when she's doing a good job. And I have been on the campaign trail with her, and I've heard people say their only reason is, oh, she's been in office too long. You know, to me, that's your only reason she's been in office too long. You know, I don't agree with that. And that's the example that I use because that's the only situation that I've been privy to where someone has just said, oh, she's been in office too long. And that's all you have to stand on. You know, that part I don't get. Give me some, hasn't been more successful, you know, in her role. So that's why I say that it's a, you know, a toss up for me you know, with that. So I'll pass it on to Garland. Garland?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'm all for term limits. I just think that, it forces us as a society to keep building a bench. And I just think back here years ago in North Carolina, I think Senator Jesse Helms, I think he served 38 or 40 years. That was way too long. I mean, technological changes, just sort of made him argue. And so, I mean, it's just a lot of reason I believe that, 2 terms, maybe 3 for certain, and certainly the Supreme Court. I think there should be term limits for Supreme Court judges. And oh, by the way, I heard a very good argument for expanding the Supreme Court to 20 judges. I think that there are, the 7th Circuit Court has 20 judges. The Supreme Court, I think, should be representative to the greatest extent possible of all Americans. Where's the Black woman on the Supreme Court? Where's the Hispanic man where's the Asian on the Supreme Court? So we really need to think about that. And I'd be all for it. Plus, I think term limits in general are a good thing. It keeps us fresh. It keeps us, having to be deliberate about building a bench and passing on our knowledge to others, and taking that youthful energy and making sure it's applied. So, and with that, I'll pass it on to Ann.
So I lean mostly towards term limits. I think I hear Kelly, because I don't like it as though you've just been there too long, but I also know I think you should have terms that are long enough that you can actually learn how to do the job. I think 2 years is redunculous that our U.S. congressperson served for 2 years, and state reps have to run every 2 years. I had a situation where in a state rep's role, you have to write a letter to support a 9% tax credit application for affordable housing. Well, if the voters that live near where the development is going to go don't like that it's going to come there solely because they don't like the kind of people they think are going to live in it, and you sign a letter and you have to run for office every 2 years, like that makes people make a different kind of decision about supporting something that is good for everyone. And I know after serving on the school board for 8 years, and that is a time-intensive, unpaid job that a couple of y'all know, all good and well. And everybody was like waiting with bated breath to see if I was going to run again to re-up to be there 12 whole years. And so there wasn't a bench, like Garland said. There were not people that were prepared to step in and run for that position. And so you're kind of scrambling around to find someone good. And I think when people are expecting for you to roll off, yeah, you do end up with a herd of like 20 people running for the seat, and it takes a couple of elections. I wish we had ranked choice voting for that reason, so you didn't have to go through all the runoffs. But I don't know. I think things change, and now they change so rapidly. And I think it's important to have people that are current and open and up with the times. Because not everybody who's been there as long as my congresswoman has been there are open to learning about changes and things that are different. So I'm kind of for term limits, I think.
Anna, invite somebody, please.
I'll invite Martha.
Thank you, Anna. I have mixed emotions about term limits, and I will tell you that, one side of me thinks that every election is potentially a term limit. If there are good candidates in the race and people go vote, that can potentially be a term limit. And then the other side of me knows the power of incumbency at times too. and how people that are in positions can remain in positions. And I will tell you that I will say, for instance, Symphonia Thompson, who is the longest serving state representative and now could potentially be the Speaker of the House. If it were term limits, that position would not be available. She would not be potentially even have filed for that position. So I think that, you know, she is definitely an example of, you know, if you're doing a great job and you've been in there a long time. I think she's been reelected 24 times, but does a great job for her area. And if she does become the Speaker of the House, she'll be the first African-American female to serve in the role, the third highest ranking in Austin. So I think that we wouldn't have potentially had that opportunity if there were term limits. City Council, we moved from 2-year terms to 4-year terms. I think it's important that we move to 4-year terms because I will tell you, government moves slow. And I like to see some of the projects come to fruition. You know, we project a 5-year CIP plan. If we have, you know, 2-year terms, you may vote for a project, but you may not see the project come to fruition. So I have mixed emotions about it. I do think it takes some time. When you get elected, there's no magic halo that teaches you how to do the job. You have to put in the work and put in the time. A lot of it is on the job training. And a lot of it takes time to really understand. You know, the first year I was elected and I saw the city budget, it took time for me to really understand what was going on in all those budget workshops and presentations. The second year I was better at it. The third year I even got some budget amendments passed. I mean, but it's a process to learn how to be effective at the positions that people elect you to serve. So I have mixed emotions about it. I think there's some good, and then there's some improvements that can also be made. And I think a lot of it depends on the particular positions also.
I think we still have Jeff.
Okay, I'm going to invite Jeff.
Oh, well, I totally agree with Martha. I tell people all the time when they ask that question, am I for term limits? You know, I say that we do have term limits. They're called elections. And the reason why I believe that is the case, although I do believe that there should be an increased number of years given to some of these positions, city council, you know, state representatives, United States congressmen. I mean, if you're going to give the senators that type of time, and even some of these other county seats, they have 4 years, 3 years in many instances. So you should give these other key positions, you know, at minimum 4 years in order to get some of the work, 3 or 4 years to get the work done. But, you know, you look at what just happened in Missouri. You look at just what happened in Missouri with Corey Bush, the Black Lives Matter activist who was active in the whole Ferguson situation. She just won yesterday convincingly, like 80%, the first congressional district. But before that, she was facing an incumbent who he and his dad, William Lacey Clay, had been in that seat for 50 years. And she ran against William Lacey Clay and that incumbency and beat him. And so there are many other stories, not only on the Democratic side, but on the Republican side, where there are a lot of incumbents who've gotten uprooted. You know, you look at, you know, what is her name? The young lady that the Green New Deal Congresswoman, you know,
AOC.
Yeah, AOC. You know, she defeated an entrenched incumbent. So I believe elections are the greatest indicator of who people want to represent them and who they don't, and just you know, enforcing that. You know, I know in Houston they have term limits. We don't have them in Missouri City, and you know, I just think that, you know, it's up to the people what they want at the end of the day. But I don't really say I'm a fan of saying you have to have term limits for any position.
Thank you. I think that that elections are term limits often, and also there is gerrymandering. So, so often, sometimes the people are not voting for whom they would like to have served them because they don't have the opportunity to do so. Just a thought, just a thought. Also, I really am a fan of preparing people to come behind you. Okay, so yeah, you're not gonna have term limits, cool. But there should be somebody that you are prepping, somebody who thinks like you, who works like you, who believes like you, who, if you're doing a great job, they're gonna step right in and keep it going. Right?
You know, I mean, that sounds well and good, but give me some examples of where that's happened. Let's talk about Harris County. Who's done a good job of that? Where you can look
exactly.
back at
Nobody.
That's what I'm saying. It's easier said than done, is my point.
Well, I worked in Councilmember Green's
other
office.
than Martha,
and when he passed away, I was the director of constituent
Castex-Tatum.
services, and I was preparing to run when his term was up. So
yeah. You're an anomaly. I mean, but I'm talking about outside of you. I know your story, but I'm saying for real, let's talk about like outside of that being the case. Larry Green was a different type of leader. And so, you know, may he rest in peace. But I'm just saying, when we talk about maybe some of these other positions, you know, United States Congress, United States Senator, Texas.
Okay, Jeff, now to your point though, Larry Green was a different kind of leader, right? But my thought is that is the kind of leadership we need. The kind of leader who would be preparing somebody else, i.e. a Martha, to be ready in the event of anything.
But do you think that they're not preparing them because they're afraid that they're going to run against them?
Possibly. I mean, we all want what we want, right? And I know this lady who used to say, and she might still say, that tomorrow is not promised and neither is the rest of today. So we go out here, we got coronavirus, that's proof of that, right? So I'm not wishing the coronavirus on anybody, but let's just say that you have not been preparing somebody for your spot, but today is your day that all bets are off, right? So even if we weren't gonna have term limits, people do die.
No, I mean, you're right. Look at L. Franco Lee. He abruptly passed away, and then that mushroom effect of how his seat got filled, and then when Rodney, his state Senate seat, you know, it was done by precinct chairs. It wasn't some, you know, hey, this is the person that I've been grooming to take my seat, you know, so.
Yeah.
Well, I know on the HISD board, it takes several years of begging to get anyone to even run for that. And I mean, that was when I decided to run the first time. The woman who would have been the incumbent and decided not to run again, she kept coming to my house and saying, "Do you know anyone who would want to do this?" And finally, I said, "Are you asking me if I would want to do it?" And I had never been to a board meeting, and you know, a lot of people said that was a plus because I might not have signed up to run, but it really was like I spent a good, you know, 6 months like a deer in the headlights after getting elected, and I worked my tail off to get into that seat. I mean, it was nasty and ugly race, and I think people, you know, city council, it's like a job, a full-time job, and you have a staff and school boards that make these huge decisions that really affect the rest of people's lives.
And they get they collect the highest amount of your taxes. People complain at city council about their taxes, but 58% of your taxes is from the school board, and nobody goes to the school board and complains about their taxes.
I remember knocking on doors and people were like, "I don't vote in that." And I said, "Well, you just got your bill in the mail, and that highest line item is that money, and the people who sit on the board decide how that money's going to be spent." Yeah. And people don't know that. I think, and now and next year, because of the way city council is done, the only thing on the ballot is the HISD. those 5 seats. And that is a really heavy lift to get people to pay attention and participate in those elections. Voters.
Well, every time I get my tax bill, I know that y'all pick the most, collect the most.
Okay, good people, we are coming to the edge of our time. And I want to first, before I give you one last moment to hop in here and share what's stuck in your chest, I want to say thank you again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your yes. Thank you for your compassion and your honesty and your truth. And thanks to the folks who are watching us via Facebook and anywhere else that you might watch this later. Thank you. I will also say that if you're interested in the Quiet Rebel, the best place to find me is quietrebellife.com. And on Sunday, I am hosting a sort of community chat back. So information about that is available. I don't even know if it's on my website yet, but I'll post it somewhere. You'll be able to find it. So if you yourself would like to be in this conversation later, we're having a post-election open chat on Sunday at 3:00 Central. With that, Garland, parting words.
The 2022 election is right around the corner. I hope we keep the same energy and passion, and let's continue the uphill struggle.
Thank you. Martha, last words.
Be kind to each other. Everybody's dealing with something. This has been a rough couple of months since the onset of COVID. And so I would just encourage everyone to be patient with each other, be kind to each other, and know that whatever happens in our country, the only people that can really make it better is each one of us, and the way we treat each other and the way we deal with each other on a day-to-day basis, and we can make the world a better place.
Anna, last words.
I don't know. I think am I muted? No, I'm not.
No, you're good.
We are on the precipice of like an awesome opportunity. I think there is a cleaving, a ripping of fabric that has been absolutely necessary. I don't know if people have ever heard of the term of a lemon or a liminal space or point. It's a threshold, and you can know what's there on the other side, but then there's this gray area between that and what's to come. And I think we are in a really long spot of one of those. In the moment, it feels long. In the grand scheme of things, I think it's going to be, we have an opportunity to make some changes. And I just want to thank Tracy for inviting me to be a part of this conversation and for hosting these kind of conversations. Because if we don't, do what Martha said, and we're not kind to each other, and we don't interact and listen and talk, then, we're just going to go in the tank. So anyway, I think that's where we are. We are in a lemon, and all of us and all the other people out there that we touch are going to be a part of getting us to the other side of it.
Thank you, Anna. Kelly.
Well, short and sweet, in the words of my pastor, Dr. Ralph Douglas West, be encouraged.
Yeah.
Say, be encouraged. That's it.
Jeff.
Well, first and foremost, I want to encourage everybody to go to forwardtimes.com so you can read the Forward Times content and subscribe to the Forward Times newspaper. Again, that's forwardtimes.com. I also want to thank all of the ladies and gentlemen that are on this call. Thank you for your service to our community in whatever capacity that may be. And my whole 2 last points is, it's November the 4th, and whoever's going to be our elected representative, both of them, as president, promised a black plan of some sort. So I plan to hold them accountable for following through on what it is, whether it's the platinum plan or whatever the plan is. They need to follow through and not allow us to be lost in the sauce, as they will, and lost in translation, especially after overwhelmingly getting the loyal and dedicated continuous support of the African-American community. Last thing I want to just leave with is, this is very disturbing because I pray to God. I'm a Christian. I love Jesus, but I looked at one of the exit poll figures and it says, are you a white evangelical or white born again Christian? And 76% of those that said that they were voted for Donald Trump. Now, I don't know if we praying to the same God or serving the same God, but I tell you one thing, you know, that's very disturbing to me. And we really need to have a real deep discussion in this country about what it truly means to be a Christian in this country, or a man of God or a woman of God in this country, or whatever your belief is, you know, and try to survive, you know, these types of activities and this type of rhetoric and these types of actions from people who are elected to represent us. I'm done.
Thank you, Jeff. Layle.
I want us to be proud of the work that we've done and not be discouraged no matter the outcome. I think it's going to be really tough to encourage people to go vote again and again if elections don't turn out as we wish. But I want us to be proud of the work and exactly like Martha said, to be kind and just have patience with one another. And we have so many deaths and killings and road rage, and we're a mess. And I want us to be kind and be patient and be proud of the work that we've done. That's it for me. And we're already talking about what we're going to do next. So Kelly and I are texting. So we'll, you know, we got to keep going. We got to keep going. What's next? You know, after this conversation, there's something else and something else. We have to keep going.
So while I belong to a different sorority, I am a member of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Right.
I am grateful to the women of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated for this invitation. I am grateful particularly to Layle, you're gonna mess up your chapter, Omicron Tau Omega chapter. I did see a comment in the Facebook from Tanisha. She is watching, she is listening, and she also says she is thankful for everyone participating in this conversation. And so with that, I will return us all back to our lives and to holding our breath, waiting for Nevada. Come on, Nevada. We're gonna rub our hands together and light some incense and light a candle and do some Hail Marys and whatever else you do to bring up good juju in your life. And I want to thank my best friend Layle for this invitation, because invitations make the world go round. Invitations are my love language, and she knows that. Thank y'all. Thank you so much for your yes. Thank you for your patience.
Thanks for inviting us. I enjoyed it. Great conversation. Love talking to good people.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.